Hey guys, welcome back to the latest episode of the Growing a Dental Practice podcast. I am your host, Mike Hennan from Patient Boost. In today's episode, I'm joined by Jennifer Dreyfus from Cultivate Advisors. Jennifer is a seasoned entrepreneur who's navigated the world of business from financial planning to corporate banking. She's partnered with a dental company to grow it to 3 locations with over $3.4 million in annual revenue. As a business advisor, Jennifer's rich experience continues to empower other entrepreneurs on their path to success. Welcome to the show, Jennifer. Thanks for joining me today. How are you?
Hello, Mike. Thank you for having me. I am having a wonderful morning here.
Fantastic. Because you're calling in from, is it San Diego?
That is correct. Yes. Whole different part of the world.
Whole different part of the world. You're 8 hours behind me, so you're starting your day. You're starting your day. I'm literally ending mine after this. But no, very excited to have you in the podcast. We had a chat a few weeks ago. You've got a great story to share with my audience, and I'm very looking forward to it. So, without further ado, Jennifer, tell me a bit about you. What's your background?
So I have a lot of things in my background, actually, right? I graduated from an entrepreneurial school because I wanted to own a business. So I thought that was what was the right thing for me. And I opened, I had a financial firm and I didn't like it. So I went into corporate banking. And although that treated me very, very well, it was, not very flexible when I had children. So then I moved into what was I going to do next? And I ended up consulting dentists for 9 years. And then now I'm here as a business advisor with Cultivate Advisors.
Yeah, fantastic. Because when I was looking at your background, and like you said, you kind of change direction, and it's not like a slight detour, is it? Like it's like almost like a 180, right? What direction am I going in? It resonated with me because I've kind of done the same. Like, there's the people out there that they'll do the same job for their entire career.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the people like me and you that are like, nah, screw it. If it's not right for me, I'm gonna try something else and find out where I fit. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Jump the shark, they call it.
Fantastic. So before we dig into your experience of working with the dental practice, I just want to know, like, what is a business advisor? Like, just break it down to me in like elementary terms, because I think we've all heard the term business advisor, but sometimes we don't know what that means.
Yeah, because it gets complicated when you have the different terms like coach and consultant and contractor, right? So what is advisor and how is that different? Well, as basic as I can make it, I partner with business owners to make their dreams a reality. And I'm partnering with them. So I'm shoulder to shoulder. I'm in it with them, trying to help them to figure out what the gaps are. When they started the business, they had this plan and they thought that it was going to be amazing. But a lot of times when you're in the business every single day, it's really hard. So I help them to get back out of the business, out of the weeds, and really make their business what they want it to be.
And I love that. Helping the business owner achieve their dreams. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. And so you mentioned, obviously, you did a few things. You came out of uni, college. You did your banking. You did your financial planning. How do you then end up consulting a dental practice for 9 years? Like, how does that work? Or
Right.
how did that
That's
happen?
the question. Yeah. So it's interesting because my good friend at the time, now, 20 years later, is still my friend, but he is a periodontist and he had just decided he wanted to open a practice and had no idea what to do. And so I was helping him through opening the practice, and what was necessary and the loans and how to structure and all of that. And so that's kind of how, and he looked at me and said, "You should do this. We need help." And I was like, you know what? I should.
So literally, you sort of initially stepped in, just like, he's there, like, didn't have a clue what to do. He knew that you had business experience. You kind of jumped in, gave him a bit of advice, and he's like, I need more than just like a bit of a freebie. I need you to come in and actually work for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it was interesting and it was fun. And it mirrored everything that I had already learned from my past, in an entirely different industry. And so it expanded my, knowledge that business is business. I don't need to be the expert in the industry. I just need to be the expert in business.
Absolutely. And so, and I can't wait for your description of this. Tell me, what was the situation when you first arrived? Don't hold back. Brand new. Was it a startup? Was it an existing practice that he'd purchased? What was it like that? And how was it being run?
Yeah, so his was a startup because he was just trying to open his office. And so that was a whole different concept. Then the next dentist that I worked with, she had already been in business for 6 months, and it was just as big of a mess though, right? And they were losing like hundreds of thousands of dollars in that first 6 months because dentistry is expensive.
Yeah, yeah. So they were losing the money, and then so what did you do first? Like, what was your kind of go-to plan? Like, what was the strategy if you had one?
Yeah. So you ask a whole bunch of questions, right? So when you,
Yeah.
whether it's the startup or whether it's the existing business that's just not, being run, not in the positive cash flow, right? You really just, what I do when I first go in is I ask a lot of questions about the financials, about the structures, about the organization itself. Like, where are we? Identify like what's going on, dig in deep, what's going on right now. And then where do you want to go? What is your overall goal? What do you want it to look like? What do you want your time in the business to be? What do you want? Do you want to be the best dental practice in your area? Some people say yes, some people say no, right? But whatever it is that they want, and then together we locate what those gaps are and create a plan and how to fix the gaps.
And that's it. Yeah. So ask the questions, create the plan, but then you stick around to help execute the plan.
Yes, that is correct.
Correct.
Yes.
So look. So thinking back. That's it. Yeah. That's it
Yes.
in a nutshell. So thinking back to your friend the periodontist, just walk me through, like, how did things change like over the years that you worked with? Just reveal all, like, how was it? What challenges did you face? And I guess ultimately, where did you what place did you leave it in?
Yeah, well, they're very successful now. They've been in business for 18 years. And doing very well for themselves. So they continue to reach out to me every now and then to ask some one-off things, mostly about insurance, right? I just recently helped them to reduce the amount of insurance that they're taking without losing their patient base. But there's lots of things that come up along the way. And the one thing that, you don't know everything. And as a business owner, sometimes you're like on an island out there. So it's important to have somebody that you can reach out to, whether it's an advisor, whether it's a mentor, whether it's another dentist at some point in time to ask questions to. But the practice today, they're thriving and successful.
Fantastic. And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you say, like, was it the wife is also, and it's, yeah, tell me about that. Like, it's like,
My
it's not
best friend.
just dentistry
Yes.
anymore. Yeah.
So she and I, she actually, she went to school to be a social worker and then when she moved here to San Diego, she ended up working with me at the financial firm. And she also did not like it. And so she's back into social work, but she is my best friend. And so that's why they asked me, because they were very aware of, right. Yeah. That I would be able to help them. Yeah.
Yeah. And then didn't you say it started off with the perio, but then you kind of added rooms? Was that right? Is that the right client that we're talking about? So it wasn't
Yes.
just area. Yes.
Yes. So when they wanted to expand, they weren't really sure, how to do it. And so we came up with a plan that included like other specialists. So the building that they purchased was large enough so that they could share with an oral surgeon and an endodontist. And then she is a social worker. So there's lots of different, doctors in the same building that are good referral partners amongst each other. So
Yeah.
it helps everybody's business and takes that step up, and it reduces the risk involved because they have other people sharing the building with them.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I think that was when we spoke. It was like, that's a great idea. Like, you don't have to get like more, periodontists in. You maybe think about the kind of the rest of the oral puzzle, if you like.
Yes,
I'm not sure.
absolutely.
I'm not sure.
That is actually one of the things that I recommend for dentistry in general, but it's any healthcare for that matter, right? Expansion doesn't always have to be, adding the same. It could be adding the specialist. There's a lot, there's hygiene, there's oral surgery, there's periodontics, there's pediatrics, right? There's a lot that you can put into the building. One of the dentists, orthodontics as well. Sorry, I don't want to leave anybody out, and endodontics, right? But one of the dentists that I worked with, we added everything. We had, there was 3 general dentists, 2 pediatric doctors, 3 hygienists, and then an endodontist, periodontist, and oral surgeon, all in the same building. And we really were able to take, that was the one that was losing money, by the way. And we were able to take them to a 32% net profit margin year over year.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Because it makes a lot of sense, isn't it? If you can pull it off, like if you can accommodate, that number of people, it makes sense, doesn't it, to make sure that patients, regardless of their oral health needs, they're coming back to the same place, obviously spending money in the same place. And yeah, like you say, I guess you can get good profits. That's so awesome. Is that a typical profit for a dental practice, or is that like no?
No, not.
You're being quite modest there, just shaking your head like no, that was good.
No, it's not, but it's definitely doable with the proper structures in place, right? With understanding your profit and loss statements, with having, knowing when is time to bring on a full-time employee, like what revenue you need to generate in order to have a new employee within the office, right? How many receptionists, how many, coordinators or people discussing insurance, because it should never really be the dentist discussing money. It should be other people who that's what they do within the practice, within the organization. And so once you determine that formula for the number of operatories that you have, right, then you can really maximize that profit margin.
Fantastic. Yeah, honestly, it sounds like you know your numbers, and you've just met, which I guess as a business advisor, you need to know those things.
Yes.
You've just touched on a couple of things that I want to dig a bit deeper into. So you mentioned like you worked out like based on how much top line revenue increased by, you worked out like, right, I can add another staff member. What was that figure again? Like, what was it, and why was it that big? Like, how did you realize that was the like almost like the formula? Like,
yeah, so there's a formula based on the number of operatories, right? Because if you have, it differs based off of if you have 4 operatories or if you have 12 operatories, because you have a maximum amount of people that can be in the building, right? And also your working hours. So I always called it like butts in chair, right? Because if the chair is empty, we're losing money type of a concept. But to a certain point, right? We're not going to be working at midnight. So you right? So there is a maximum capacity for the building. And when you determine what that is, then you can determine what you want to do outside of that. So when you work those numbers backwards, so at one of my practices, it was for every $50,000, we could bring in a new FTE. And at a different practice, it was 75,000. So it really just depended on how many butts we could put in the chairs.
I feel like it's going to be like a running total of how many times can we say "but" on the podcast. But no, I love that. But I think the important thing there is you can figure this stuff out. Obviously, it's more dialed into more dialed into the practice itself and the individual like circumstances. But there is like a number. There's no like guessing. Oh, do I need to add another person here or there? You can literally you can see the incomes, the revenues increasing. I guess from your perspective, Jennifer, you can be like, well, we're nearly at that 75 mark or nearly at that 50,000 mark. Maybe we should think about like the hiring process. So we're not like, yes, exactly. Because people are like, well, when do I bring someone on? Well, maybe not after you need them.
100%, Mike. Yes, that's the part where everybody, waits until it's too late. And then you have to hire somebody on that isn't necessarily your ideal candidate. So that's another one of the processes that, I mean, we could have an entire other podcast about. Recruiting is definitely a struggle in the dental field.
Yeah. Why, based on your experience of it, why do you think that is? Like, why is recruitment such a that? And it's not just the US, like it's the UK, you know, other countries, like dentistry as a general, it's just tough right now. Why is that? Or why do you think that is?
So asking why is really a tough question. I think more so it's like, what is the outcome that we're seeing of the people who are coming in? A lot of my success was used by using externs. Here in California, externship is required. When you go to school to become a dental assistant and you receive your certifications as your registered dental assistant, but you need to have a certain number of hours and it's free. So that's a really long interview process because they have to do like 120 hours with one school, or, you know, with certain things, or 90 hours or whatever. And so you can really get their behaviors. Behaviors are key. And young people haven't really truly figured out themselves, their characters and their behaviors aren't necessarily that works in a business all of the time. So, and that's a very kind way of putting it.
Love that.
So you have to find the person that fits within your culture. And it's hard to do in a 30-minute or 1-hour interview. So I leveraged externships to find good people.
Fantastic. Yeah. So don't just take them after an hour and then wonder why they don't fit in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like use is that like an apprenticeship? Just I'm just like
Yes.
yes.
Similar.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So they come in, you're not fully committing to them, but they are getting a grasp of the practice. They get to learn about the culture. You can see if it works for you. Then you take them on as a full-time employee later down the line. Fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Perfect. Love
Mm-hmm.
that. And then just circling back again, because again, it was a point that you made during our first call that I found fascinating, that the whole like dentists shouldn't talk about money. Like, tell me about that. Like, because it's a great, I think it's a great angle.
It's yes. So have you ever gone into a place and you feel just like all they care about is money? And so in a dentist chair, that happens more often than not if the dentist or the hygienist or, you know, is talking to you about what the cost is of the crown, is, for example, right? Or the filling material, because the dentist is recommending the best material because it's what's best for your mouth, right? Or the best procedure because it's what's the healthiest for your gums or the root of your tooth. But it gets convoluted because they have to follow that up with the fact that the best is the most expensive. And so if you take the dentist out of that equation and you have somebody in the office that's talking about it and provides to them, this is option A and this is option B, right? And the dentist is recommending B because it's the best, but we understand that you may not be able to financially afford that. You know, that's okay. And it becomes a different conversation than the dentist providing it and only offering the best because that is the most expensive. So when you pull the dentist out of the equation, you don't muddy those waters. And it really allows for the dentist to do dentistry and to do the dentistry that is necessary for the patient versus the patient believing that it's just because they want to buy a Mercedes or some other Ferrari.
Yes. Yeah. And that makes total sense. Like, yeah, if you've got the dentist who talking to any dentist, they always want to do the best for the patient. Like that's like,
Mm-hmm.
that's who they are. That's what they're taught at dental school. I need to do the best possible. And you're right, the best possible is usually the most expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's that like you say, muddying of the water. Like, is it for the patient's thinking, is it for my best? Is it my best interest? Or like you say, is it for that Mercedes? So I guess your solution was to separate that. So you separated that kind of the transactional and the dentistry. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. You have, I called them, you can call them treatment coordinators or benefit coordinators, or, patient, relations support, or whatever title you want to give them, but it's specific that's what their job is to talk about the difference in the options and the prices and how their benefits work for them, so that the patient has the necessary information to make an educated decision.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that is a solid piece of advice there. So this is going to be juicy, I think. So based on all of your experience, like you've done a lot of different things. You've spent a good amount of time in dentistry, working with your dental clients. You still got your nose to the. I was about to say nose to the floor, but I don't even know if that's a saying, but I think you know what I mean. So based on your experience, I'm just like, yeah. Based on your experience, what's your number one piece of advice for anyone thinking about buying or starting a dental practice? Like, it can be anything. It can be from any part of your experience. But that, I turn around to you and say, I'm starting a dental practice. What would you say to me?
Your office manager is the key person, and they do not need to have dental experience. The most important thing that this person should have is business experience and knowledge. I didn't have a single lick of dentistry experience before I helped dentists for 9 years. And honestly, it's not required. The office manager can ask questions. I know a lot about dentistry now because I was in it for 9 years. There's a lot, right, that you can do after just seeing x-rays over and over again and hearing things over and over again. But I wasn't trained, and nor would I ever pretend that I am a dentist. And I don't want to be. I want to be a business person. And that's the type of office manager that will best serve you.
Fantastic. I think I think some people might think that's quite controversial. But I do think it's probably the advice they need to hear, because you see it all the time that the practice manager, was the receptionist that, then became the nurse, and then, worked your way up. So, I love the fact that there is, career progression inside the dental practice, but the practice manager, it's a business role, isn't it? At the end of the day, like it is. And if you don't understand business, you're probably going to struggle, and the practice is going to struggle. And I think that's a fantastic piece of advice. Really good.
Well, thank you.
So Jennifer, I have loved speaking with you. It's been a hoot. You've shared some great information and great advice. If someone listening is either starting a practice or has just brought a practice and they don't entirely know what to do left, or they have had a practice for multiple years and they've heard a lot of what you've just said, and they're like, I could probably do with someone like Jennifer on my team, how can people contact you? How can they reach out to you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, but also our website is www.cultivateadvisors.com. And, you can locate an advisor, and I'm on there. You can request a meeting with me that way. You can also email me at jennifer@cultivateadvisors.com.
Fantastic. I will make sure that your contact details are in the show notes. But Jennifer, I would just like to say it has been lovely getting to know you. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your experience of working with dentists. And I would love to have you back on, later down the line and see how you progressed. You might have gone in a different direction by then, but we never know.
Well, thank you, Mike. I plan to stay here for a while, so maybe we can talk about recruiting.
Yes, we should probably do that. Maybe I can see a panel of us talking about recruitment. Right. Jennifer, thank you again so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and keep in touch.
Thank you, Mike. Have a good one.